Welcome to the Mark Attwood Show, Adventures in a Cosmic Suit. Don't forget, sign up to the email list. It's in a link in the description. Who knows how long this channel is going to last? It's already been once and nearly twice. So it is the best way to stay up, keep up with my work. One of my favorite parts of doing this show is meeting incredible people. And I came across a guy about a year ago who had decreased his biological age from something like 84 to 28 by fixing himself because he was on a standard American diet and he was a mess. And I've learned so much from him since then. So it's my pleasure to reintroduce to you Ian Clark. Hello, Ian.
Hey, Mark. How's it going?
How's it going?
Really great.
Well, we've both got, is that sea behind you? There's usually water behind you. I've got some this time.
Yeah, that's Georgian Bay.
Nice.
One of the Great Lakes. Yeah, that's sort of been in my DNA since I was 2 weeks old.
Beautiful. This is the cliffs of Moher on the west of Ireland, which I think you'd like. So how's it been going? We've not spoken on the show for quite a while. How have you been getting on?
We've been on quite the journey. And it's, a continuing journey of refining things, simplifying things better, getting it more definitive and having more success for serving people and getting myself, first of all, dialed in. And then as that happens, then we just share the information out there. So, and our world is getting clearer and clearer in spite of the world itself otherwise going off the rails.
Yeah, I'm finding that it's the definite divide between people who are getting clarity over their health, their wealth, their sovereignty, and all of that, and the rest of them seem to just be. I was out at a cafe this afternoon, and a lorry went past with "Stop the war, send money to this app," and I'm like, it's all over a lorry, like it was pre-prepared. It was crazy, but I'm not going to say any naughty words to get me into trouble. We're gonna. One of the subjects that's come, one of the things I've learned in the last year is really how bad and how insidious seed oils have become or have been introduced into our lives as like they're the panacea of great health. And then I was thinking about when I was a kid in the 70s, when there was a thing called flora margarine. I know this is not seed oil, but flora margarine was introduced to the market, and there was a really famous guy in the UK called Terry Wogan, who was a Radio 2 DJ, and he had his own TV show and stuff. And he did this little ditty about how great flora was, and then loads of people started using flora instead of butter. And I never liked it, but it was instilled as healthy, and it's the same with olive oil, and it's the same with all of these oils, most of which should only ever go near, an engine, right? They shouldn't be near a human being. What's the story? Because I know you've done tons and tons and tons of research into this, so I'd like to dig into that with you if I could.
Well, this actually started when I was so it would be 1970. I was 12 years old, and my brother, who is 9 years older than me, I have two brothers. He was in medical school. And he came home with the new revelations from the medical world about what was killing people and what makes you healthy. And back then is when they were starting to introduce low fats, like, getting rid of saturated fats, getting rid of all those nasty things like butter, and they're replacing it with margarine. So I remember that my mom, who was so proud of my brother being in medical school, just said, "Oh yeah, this sounds like this is the newest thing. Let's get rid of this and this and this." And they were replacing all these super healthy foods in our lifestyle with this garbage. And I couldn't stand the taste of it. I just didn't, I had to use it because it was the only thing available at the time. But within about 2 years, I was convinced my mom to buy butter. There's just nothing worse than margarine. And so my brother was told, my brother really truly believed this stuff, that it was the death of the world, eggs and, animal fats and butter and all that good stuff was the worst. So my dad was subject to what my mom was cooking for that time. So fast forward from 1970 to 1984. My dad got angina in 1984 at the age of 63. He fought for his life from 1984 until 1996 when he died. He had 2 open heart surgeries. He had all kinds of different, like from kidney stones to whatever, just suffered until he died. And that was all related to the shift away from the stuff that was right into the stuff that was wrong. So the long and the short of it is real simple. You know this, and I'm preaching to the choir, but I'll reiterate it. The news media, who publishes for the governments, for the pharmaceutical industries, for whoever, the big corporations, their job is to convince you to believe that the lie is the truth and that the truth is a lie, to love what you should hate and hate what you should love. That's it. So that's been ongoing. The healthcare industry, which is not the medical, that's the sick care industry. The healthcare industry, which is the supplement world, health products, naturopaths, all of that stuff, they can only make money off of sick people. The medical world can only make money off of sick people. So the misinformation that was proliferated throughout the entire both industries. So you got, the us and them stuff, right? Forget that, because within they infiltrated the health product industry so deeply, they embedded all of that garbage knowledge into it, and the low sugar, the low fat, the low whatever. And it's as we know now, after finally waking up all the way and realizing how it works, that they're all full of crap and they have been getting us sick. And we have to become the discerners. We have to take responsibility. It is important that we get the intelligent data. Then, you're making your own decisions, Mark. When you make your decisions, you feel passionate about it because it's based on good data, not because somebody told you something, right? And then you're going forward and enjoying your life, and you get really passionate about it because you see the results. And at the end, everything is results driven. We're in physical bodies, and seeing is believing. Show me the results. I don't want to hear about the results. I want to see them. I have to learn first by listening. But all these gurus, everybody wants you to follow them, right? You got to believe what I believe because I believe it because I'm right. And that is the nastiest thing, the nastiest approach ever. And so I think what's happening is people are taking a step back. I just continuously take steps back and realize that I want to spend the least amount of time, the least amount of energy, and the least amount of money possible to have the best possible health without taking shortcuts. So I'm not afraid of investing in myself, but I don't want to be wasting money or time or energy, especially time and energy, because that's the most valuable thing. And I've wasted a lot of money, time, and energy in my life as I went through the iteration process to get to the top level of whatever that category is. And that's where that's where we're all trying to achieve. And that's what we're all trying to share with everybody so that they get the best, fairest shake ever.
Yeah, the power of the misinformation is so vast and so invested in. Most of these ideas people have about what's healthy or not they're not even aware that it's just there in their head. And the resistance I've seen from people that are married to these ideas, and more than married, they're obsessed with them. It's like they're cultish about a lot of these ideas, especially when it comes to what's healthy, what's spiritual, what's the right thing to do and the wrong thing to do. But seed oils in particular, I was frying eggs in olive oil until not long ago. I now do it in butter.
Right.
I was getting all these exotic oils from all over the place and making exotic salad dressings and thinking that I was doing my body loads of good. All that's flipped now, by the way, but the story behind how seed oils came into there's a great book that I read a few years ago, which is, I think it's called Fake Food, and it started with the story about how they bleached bread in the 1800s, and they'd add all this crap to bread to make it, so white bread, or to make this bread that seemed just to increase the profit margins, presumably. But then you realize actually it's a little bit darker than that when you look at what's going on with food. I mean, they've even got cannibalistic food additives in most of the corporate food, which is made from baby fetuses. I mean, once you dig into this, you realize actually the whole thing was always a plan to make us ill. And even with certain types of they've taken GMO foods. I was watching the Health Ranger Mike Adams the other day, a clip when he was talking about fruits and vegetables that have had RNAs activators put in them, so they could target different different races of people with
Wow.
specific illnesses. I mean, this is why I think it's such an important thing to talk about, because food has definitely been weaponized against us. You know,
Mhm.
I've mentioned this many times before. I mean, when I was a kid, every house in our street had a big garden and everybody grew their own stuff. And then Tesco's came in, and now if I go back to my village, there is nobody growing vegetables in their garden. There are walls and fences everywhere where they didn't used to be, and there's a massive car park outside Tesco packed with people buying stuff that's killing them slowly, and it's not even that slowly anymore.
Right. Oh yeah. This the iterations, and it's a slow motion train wreck, basically. So yeah, Canada's one of the worst in the world for this because they have canola,
Yeah,
Canadian, right? It used to be called rapeseed here. It's called rapeseed in Europe still.
yeah,
But it's a toxic oil that is very inexpensive to make, but it's not about the profit margins. It isn't, because they're
no,
selling that stuff so cheap, and it's the killing factor. The long-term residual problems of the quality of life going down and down until the final demise of the last 10 persons of a 10 persons of a year's life, 10 years of a person's life, right? Is that last 10 years of a person's life is when they have the most amount of money available and they have the most number of health problems. So they're going to spend the money. In Canada, the idiocy is that the healthcare is free. Nothing's free. It's so expensive because they tax us to death under a socialist system. I don't want to pay somebody to kill me or to promote my death. So looking at ingredients, going back to seed oils, let's just take a look at certified organic hummus in the health food store. First ingredient, is the chickpeas. The next thing is sunflower oil or safflower oil. Oh, but it's all organic. And it is anathema. However they produced it was damaging, but it's the last thing you want in your body. You should not be having more than 0.6% to a maximum 1% of your diet of seed oils. Your body loves seed oils. The seeds are there, we can eat them. You can press seeds and get oil out of them. But you have to make sure it's therapeutic oil in a small dose. Like I take a teaspoon of black cumin seed oil, for example. That's extremely therapeutic.
I have some. I've been. You told me to use this for my teeth about 6 months ago, and
Right.
my teeth have never been stronger.
Right. Oil pulling, right?
Hmm.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And so in that, you get the benefits of all worlds in that. And you can either spit it out or swallow the black cumin, because the black cumin has so many antibacterial effects.
I swallow it.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I swallow it too.
My
Yeah.
stomach gets a little bit grumbly for about 5 minutes afterwards, but I know it's doing some good stuff.
Yeah. And, if it's a bit grumbly, you could also do it right after you eat, and that avoids that grumbly. Because after you eat, with all the enzymes that have come into your mouth, you never brush your teeth then, of course, because if you brush your teeth after you eat, you're going to be tearing away at softened enamel because of all the enzymes from chewing. But when you oil pull, no problem at all. It actually cleans everything up beautifully, and then it clears your throat as well. And you can have a little tiny bit of warm water because you don't want to dilute your stomach acid, but just to have it washed down. And I think that will erase the effect of that for you. But the seed oils go into the body, and anything above 1% in your diet is going to build a residual in your system that your body does not want. It doesn't know what to do with it. It's very confused as to why you're doing this. It's not natural. And the only reason we press oils like that, like the black cumin and the amaranth and these different ones, is because we're compensating for problems in our system. And it's a compensation. We're not in a perfect state. Our bodies are aging and we're on a decline, and we want to slow the decline to a crawl. And that's what this is all about. And if we've sped up the decline, we want to reverse it back to where we were, where we should be. So yeah, the seed oils are everywhere. Look everywhere. Health food store stuff is full of seed oils. Avoid them like the plague. And of course, yeah, cooking with them, coconut oil is the best, along with butter, along with whatever. If you're on high heat, butter can burn, which is not the best. But if you're into the coconut oil, it's good. And you don't look at smoke points. And people, man, rice bran oil was a big rage for many years for cooking because it had a high smoke point. Again, totally bad for you. Seriously bad. And it's not therapeutic. So just the tiniest amount. And when you think about the number of grams you're eating in a day, do the math and look at how much you're going to allow into your system. Because you can't be harmed by animal fats. They're the best.
Yeah.
Whether it's and I don't do milk or anything. I do heavy cream because I don't want the sugars. The other, the biggest killer out there, this ripping the body to shreds, of course, is insulin.
Mm-hmm.
And we way overproduce insulin when we have too much sugar. Your body wants around 5 grams a day of sugar, and you're going to get sugar out of your foods and get whatever you need normally without having to go crazy on vegetables and fruits and adding all this other sugar. And unless you're on a very strict protocol with something like fermented palm tree syrup, where that's all you're doing in a fast, now your body's going to use that to produce glucuronic acid with your liver. It's going to go and do some work, but that's like a little sprint you might do. But if we're talking about the free stuff that gets us the healthiest possible, intermittent fasting is way at the top of the list.
Mm-hmm.
I go 18 hours a day without eating. That gives me 6 hours to get a lot of food in. And I make sure there's, the sugars are at the very bare minimum. Same with the carbs. And those things. But so anyway, I had so much residual built up because of the deception of this whole seed oil thing. I had all this whatever stuff in my body was that caked me up. And all of it has to come out. So I've been using Solaris over the years to clean it out and to go deep into the system to get it. And then the oils themselves, like if you have a fatty liver, one of the best things you can do is take a teaspoon of flax oil. It's very, very good for helping clean the liver. It's a liver cleanser. But again, not large amounts. You're not going to guzzle the stuff. For men, prostate health is with the original zinc in the pumpkin. But the most important thing for prostate health is don't have too much insulin, because insulin is tearing it up, causing enlarged prostate. That's the real culprit. So when people realize that what's killing them and what causes the insulin to get in there at our age, Mark, insulin resistance is the big deal. And people think, what is insulin resistance? Well, the insulin can't get inside the cell. That's a problem. That's not the problem. The problem is we're producing too much insulin that can't get in the cell, that then goes to the rest of our system and it rips us up. And then there's uric acid. You have to make sure you're controlling your uric acid levels. If you're eating a lot of meat, you got to get on the trifala one, the iuric. We don't have it yet available. It's coming out very shortly, but because it takes a little time to get everything packaged properly and presented right. But there's an herbal remedy that you take every single day that goes and washes all the uric out of your system that you have excess. Plus, it controls the amount of uric acid you have because it's an essential part of your being. But as you get older, you produce more and more and more, and you don't balance it. So, once you bring the uric acid into balance, that's another game changer. But it's simple stuff. I just looked at the biggest rocks. What are the biggest issues that we're dealing with? Let's deal with them first. Yeah. And then all the small issues seem to just melt away.
Yeah. Well, intermittent fasting I've been doing that now for 3 months nearly, and I couldn't go back now. I think I'm 10 kilograms down, and I'm got more energy than I've ever had. And just to explain to people watching this, if you've never seen Ian before, he's done like a lot of shows with me, but Ian was really ill in his 40s and decided to start fixing it. And off the back of that, started creating products like this black cumin oil. And the thing that he's just mentioned is Solaris, which is here. And this is one of my favorite things, is the spray on magnesium, which this sits next to this one doesn't, because I haven't opened this one, but this sits next to my bed, and I spray it before I go to sleep every night. Sleep like a baby. And a lot of your stuff you call perfect press. Now the perfect press, I think that's worth talking about, because it's a lot of the seeds that we're consuming are pressed in the wrong way, or it contains stuff that should be extracted. Because and I've done a virtual walk around of your factory in Canada and seen the pressing machines that you've got are, well, I've never seen anything like them. You mean it's there's like this one. I think I've got the Amaranth Seed Oil here, but that one That's like millions of seeds for a tiny little bottle of Amaranth because of the process. Do you want to explain a bit about that? And by the way, everybody watching, if you're interested in any of these, there's a link near here, and there's an exclusive 20% discount code off any of these if any of these interest you. But do you want to explain that process, Ian?
Yeah, well, seed oils there are billions and billions of dollars worth of seed oils are produced all over the world, and they do it everything from hexane extracts to massive presses to bleaching it to just look up how is made canola oil on YouTube, and you'll see the incredible ridiculousness of the whole thing and how unhealthy they are. So aside from all the massive amounts, we'll come right down to therapeutic oil. So a guy named Udo Erasmus, way back in the day.
Is that Udo? I used to take that. I used to have it in the fridge. That was like an alternative to cod liver oil.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Well, Udo was a guy that, like, the pioneer back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Who brought out the idea of seed oils. And he didn't have the access to the top level press technology, but if you got their oils very soon after, like within a week after, it was pretty good. And it would help you, but again, just small amounts. So what we learned in the process of all this thing, doing a full due diligence, you have to go all the way back to the sourcing of the seeds themselves. Which part of the earth are they coming from? What is the soil they're grown in? What are the microbial contents? How quality is it? Is it just a fake sheet that says certified organic, or is it truly certified organic? And is the farmer conscious about value rather than worrying about making the most money off his crop? Because what will happen is when the plant is coming close to harvest, they will harvest everything before the time instead of letting it ripen fully under the sun. And then they'll put it into dryers that are heat based to finish off the process to make it look like they're finished and ready to go, and instead of waiting until they're actually ready. And it takes more time. It's more of an artisan approach. You do segments of your field all in the same time frame, making sure they're fully ripened. That's number one. Because any heat on the seeds is going to damage the oil inside the seed automatically. Number two, how do they package it? Because it's got to come from around the world, a lot of these. So they have to package it correctly. It's got to be in a dry, climate-controlled atmosphere. When they ship it, it has to be stored in a climate-controlled building. And then you have to make sure that when you press the oil, you're pressing it with the technology that is able to get the oil out of the seed without damaging it. Because 99% of the cold expeller press technology, which has started from the 1920s, and all they did was do better metallurgy and tolerances to get it a little better, it still has a grinding, shearing effect on the seed itself, which damages the oil as it comes out. And so you have a damaged oil. So after all that work, after you go through the whole thing to get the right seeds in the right place in the right condition, you damage it at that pinpoint. So we made sure that is not happening at all. And you can tell with our oils immediately, just compare them to anything else out there, is the color, taste, texture, smell, the feel of it, just everything, the results, the shelf stability, you can tell immediately. So that you can't hide from. And anyway, then once you get it into your system, how bioavailable is it? How are you taking it? When are you taking it? What are you taking it with? Is very important. And so there's all these steps along the way. You just got to make sure that every step stays in sequence. And that's basically the quality control measures. So our company had to grow up. It took years to get the quality control measures nailed down to where we knew for sure that each step of the way everything was being checked. Because a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And we had some weak links 8-9 years ago. And we got hit by different agencies. Like there's the thing called GMP, which people are pretty familiar with in the manufacturing side of health products, good manufacturing processes, but you're audited. You have to have a person who comes in and scrutinizes the entire operation from front to back. Where's your documentation for checking? Where's your binder? Where's your stage recall? Where's your clinic, your certificates of analysis? Where's your third-party analysis? All these things, you have to meet these criteria. And in Canada, it's very strict because you've got Health Canada looking over your shoulder at all times with, saying, are you meeting the GMP? And if you're not, they don't give you your site license. And even if you have a site license, they can revoke it if they just do a random audit. So we actually do our own random audits. We do it every 6 months. We just have a random audit. We got a guy come in He goes through everything. And then we know that if Health Canada is going to come in, that they're going to find out all the good stuff. And there's just a lot of touch points. And you have to hire expensive personnel, which are well worth every penny that they make, because they are the ones who take full responsibility and accountability for those things. They're the ones on the hot seat whenever there's an audit. And once you get that done, it's this super clean, super organized, efficiently run operation that produces, and our thought patterns are always, what does that product look like when it shows up in a person who has invested in themselves and they have the product in their hands? What is their experience? Is that going to benefit to them far greater than they could otherwise pay money for? The answer is yes. And when the answer is yes, then that product's allowed to go. We're allowed to produce that and get it out there. That's why our company has very few products, and we stayed small. We are still a small operation. And really the smallness is not about the quantity anyway, it's about the quality. And then, the quantification factor is only if we can produce more and keep that quality as we scale, perfect. But you know how it works with bigger companies. If they have investors coming in, which we don't, we're all self-run inside the family. If you have investors coming in, they're like only looking at bottom line. What's your net profit? What's your net profit? Every time they want more net profits. And the only way you can get more net profits is if you start taking shortcuts and cutting corners. And then it shows up in the product. And then people are believing in a brand that was originally amazing.
Yeah.
But the brand got diluted and they didn't know it.
Yeah. So, well, Innocent Drinks is a great example. When they came out, everybody loved them because it was like, oh, fresh tasting fruit juice, right? Which I wouldn't drink anyway. But back then, I thought it was great. And then Coca-Cola bought them out, and these guys' principles were all destroyed overnight. Because people were loyal to the brand because of the principles. Now people buy it just because it happens to be in the supermarket, where it wasn't originally, and everybody feels duped, and that happens with a lot of brands, I think. And it's not all things are created equal, and we're all searching for these things. But what I thought was, you said about Solaris being really good for flushing out toxins. All of these things like the K2D3 we've talked about before, they all have like specific like jobs to do, don't they? And that's and then they have and then there's like with the black cumin oil, I kind of realized that this is like a maintenance job,
right?
But which is doing a hell of a lot of good for my mouth and for my stomach when I use it. I mean, this is legendary stuff, black cumin oil. When I looked into that, I couldn't believe the benefits of it from way back. People knew this like thousands of years ago, but not all oils are created equal.
No, and they all have a different function as well. And it's remarkable to see the results that I saw. That's why we only allow things. I was always looking for something that was less than optimal to delete it. So I always have to be open to that, and I have to be allowed to be called out and say, hey, dude, like, was that really at the top level? Is that really that important? So I've eliminated so many things out of the portfolio over the years because it gets displaced. So you take the K2D3, for example. What are the big problems? Number one, you're not getting proper calcium into the bones. So D3 helps to release the calcium to be available, but then it goes into the arteries because it's available. But when you take the K2MK7 with it, that is a driver to drive everything into the bones. Therefore, it pulls everything out of the arteries into the bones, so you don't have hardened arteries. And you can measure that. Like at our age, we can go down and get it measured. I have the cardiovascular of a 25-year-old because I've been on that for a long period of time. And it doesn't take long. It takes like 60 days of being on the K2MK7 with the D3 in order to have that cardiovascular upgrade. And that's of extreme importance. So that's one of the big rocks. You look at the things you do most, you think, you breathe, you drink fluids, and you eat food, and you pump blood, and you have lymphatic motion. So those are the big ones. If you're making sure those are all working together very well, from thoughts to breathing to heartbeats, what is it, 86,000 heartbeats a day average for an athlete, and higher for people who are less healthy. So you want to get that, you want to just optimize everything. So then you're not even thinking about it anymore. I don't want to have to chase my tail all day long to be healthy. We have a lot of work to get done, and we got to have a lot of people to serve and a lot of missions to accomplish because we're given those missions. And if I'm not feeling up, if I'm like, you look at your energy levels have gone through the roof now, right? So
Yep.
you have more energy, more bandwidth,
More life
time,
force.
right? What's that?
More life force.
Oh yeah, for sure. More radiance too. Like your glow, your quality of life goes way up. Your energy goes way up, and you can collapse time that way as well. You get a lot more done in time, so you're more efficient. And I've seen that happening in my world in the last 2 years, especially because before that, I don't know why I thought I had to do this, but I was constantly traveling. Like 2 weeks every month, I was traveling, going to events, meeting people, networking, learning. Okay, that's great. I learned a lot in that 15 years. But when I sat still and I thought and I went over everything, everything, I was like, oh wow, what was that? What was this? And it was a great moment to be able to wake up a lot more and get much more serious about things and still have a lot more fun. Because there's nothing more fun than serving people with stuff that's actually going to move the needle for them.
Mm.
And nothing feels as good as feeling good. Nothing feels as great as feeling great. And so that's where we want to do. If you feel great, you got a lot of joy and there's your strength. And we always know there's always challenges coming our way, because the stronger you and I get, the stronger anyone gets, the more they're going to get challenged, because that's how we get stronger. So I'm not afraid of suffering. I don't like it. But when the suffering times come, I know there's joy following. So it goes suffering, joy, suffering, joy, suffering, joy. And the joy is far greater, can't even be comparable to the suffering that you go through. And the suffering is often a mental suffering, because we've been so programmed. I was programmed so hardcore. Born in 1958, we were like post World War II kids, right? And the boomers. Wow, I was just I'm still programmed. I've still got programs running in the background that I haven't found yet, for sure.
Same here.
Yeah, but we're going to find every one of those programs, and every one of them are going to be deleted. And it's just proper thinking.
Yeah, well, it's a real journey, and I'm still learning, because we're all trying to learn at the same time. As what you said earlier on is absolutely right. You can look into this stuff, you can understand it theoretically, but until you've experienced it,
Right.
you can't. It doesn't stick until you've experienced it.
Mhm.
And often we go, yeah. Like you were super busy learning all that stuff, but it was just really shiny things. And you probably overloaded and not focused on what you should have been focused on, and that's what I think one of the best things about the last 2 years has been for a lot of people, is that we've had to take a good long look into our lives and into ourselves and rewrite these programs. I'm still rewriting programs all the time, and always try to be open-minded about everything. But what I've always liked about you is the logic. Firstly, the logic behind everything. Secondly, the fact that you are living proof, and thirdly, that you did something about it. And that's what I like.
Oh yeah, executing is everything.
Mm.
We have all the knowledge in the world, and I can even tell you, oh, Mark, I know this and I know this. I can tell you all that stuff, but if I'm not doing it, I don't actually know it. I just say I know it.
Yeah.
And it's the experience inside the body. And so people say to me, well, I think I'm going to do some research on your products. I say, that's cool. You should be researching everything. But the best way to research, the only way I research anything, is by taking it and seeing what it does. And it will teach me what is within it. And everything that we take has to be not only the right ingredients, it has to be in the right form, the right amount. Because the body actually doesn't, if we were living in the original state of the earth with all of its perfect soils and all that stuff, we wouldn't need any supplementation at all. None. Because everything would be in there and it would be in equilibrium. But everything got so messed up. It's just like what we stepped into is the massive hybridization, and then all the genetic modification stuff that went on. And who knows how much technology was there for thousands of years, messing with the original. What is heirloom?
Yeah.
The only thing I found out that I knew for sure was absolutely heirloom was the marine phytoplankton in the ocean. When they did the study on the 40-some thousand strains, there's nobody in there genetically modifying the ocean marine phytoplankton. It's microscopic. It was a 40-year study to pull out the strains to find the two that work with the human body. And there was no reason to change it because it was so upgraded already, just through the process of time.
Yeah.
And so then all they had to do was just do genetic selection for the very best genetics of that particular strain, and then only produce that. And that took, years to develop a photobioreactor where they could actually do that. And that's why Oceans Alive originally was the first thing that was my first wake up. That stuff right there. That's a daily.
That's the good stuff.
Yeah. And the crazy thing about that one, which I didn't even understand at all at the time, is that it was charging my battery up. So it wasn't giving me like coffee energy or anything like that at all. It was just charging my battery up until I had a reserve that I could tap into when I needed it. And then I found out years later, because that started in 2007, I found out in 2013 that it has every nutritional molecule known to man, plus more that was not even in the registered history of nutrients. And that it was in a nanonutrient particle size that when you digest it, it explodes open, and all these nutrients are available to your body, and you need the tiniest amount of it to get a big, huge effect.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like, well, everybody has to find out about this. But it's like crying wolf, because you're like the thousandth person saying, everybody has to find out about this.
Mm-hmm.
And yet this was actually the one that displaced all of the algae products as far as their efficacy and their effectiveness for what you're going to invest time, energy, and money into. And nothing happened with that product in Canada at all. I told people who I had known for a little short time in the health space, because I was pretty new, they turned their nose up at it and said, there's nothing to it. I showed a few people in California that same year, well, not quite there, but 4 months later. So it was like the end of 2006 when I was showing the people in Canada. It was March of 2007 when I took it to California. And there was just enough people there who had an openness to explore something new and be open. And what they did is they tried it. And when they tried it, they're like, okay, what is this stuff? Is this like a new drug? I go, no, this is just a food, period. And we did $2.8 million in retail sales out of the basement of our house in the next 24 months without any marketing department, no sales department. All we did was fill bottles and send them as they were asking, because they were just telling their buddies, and they had followers.
Well, that's the sign of a good product.
It was the weirdest experience, because we'd never had that kind of money flowing into any bank account ever. And when the money went in the bank account, we never touched it. I went, that's not our money. That money is to be used to further the understanding of what this is. Because if Oceans Life could do that, what more is there? And what more needs to be done? Because I knew nothing. And so all that money was reinvested into further research by just paying for all the expenses of learning and going and meeting people and finding out. And then that expanded into further revenue generation, because as I learned, that's where the ease came in. Because the ease, what I love the most about that one is, sometimes when your mind is still racing at the end of the day and you got to go to bed.
Yeah.
I spray it on. My mind still is going. But when I spray it on my body, I feel my body go to sleep in every area I've sprayed it in. And it's just like, oh, wow, okay, that's really good.
That's what I like, because I take magnesium supplements in the morning, and but it's better on your skin, right? And I've got magnesium oil, which I've had in the cupboard for maybe 10 years as a kind of like thing to use when I've got cramp. But then when I started using this, it's like instant sleep,
right?
And because I was getting cramp. I mean, when I started doing the intermittent fasting and stuff, I was getting cramps for the first month or so in bed, especially in my foot. So I sprayed this on the bottom of my feet, under the armpits, down everywhere. And that is one product I could not live without.
Yeah. Well, the other interesting thing about that one is I spray it on in the morning as well, because once you've had your rest, now you're energized, then it gives you a calm, steady energy throughout the day. So I do it twice. So you do 30 sprays at night, 30 sprays. I do a little more than 30 sprays sometimes at nighttime if I feel like it. But the way I do it, I count it out. I go 5 sprays into my hand, into my palm, so it doesn't fall on the floor, right? Yeah. And then I just wipe it on. I do 6 times 5 sprays. And then if I haven't covered enough of my body, I'll do a couple more. And then it just goes in. Within 90 seconds, it's gone. And then you're in bed and your body's just going to sleep.
And it's not got that oiliness of straight
No, this stuff is high end. The reason that it goes in and doesn't leave a residual or be uncomfortable is because that product goes through multiple stages as well. We started looking at what were other companies in the magnesium oil world doing. And what they do is they buy very inexpensive magnesium chloride. That's all it is. And it's usually a waste product from a nickel mining operation, which they purified as much as they can, given where it came from. And then they just put it in water. It melts into water right away. You could buy magnesium chloride at Home Depot and make your own batch of so-called magnesium oil. And it will do virtually nothing for you other than make you think you did something, and you'll feel something in your skin. It'll be quite irritating. So what we learned is you do not want to take that shortcut. Why would we do that? It took us 1.5 years to find the supplier in Europe that does an extract only from seawater, nothing from any mines anywhere. No fancy named mines either, right? It's strictly seawater. And they do the extract at a level where they keep extracting it out with the magnesium chloride hexahydrate molecule until that's all there is in there. Because there's all these other weird things that are in ocean water. And so it's a very expensive process for them to go. We end up paying 10 times more for the raw material to make E's than I could buy it for out of Missouri. Because down in Missouri, people will look it up. Missouri, magnesium chloride. It's like, you can get it almost for free. And they claim purity, but it's not, and it's not effective. And it does not have the 6 water molecules attached to the magnesium chloride molecules, which is the hexahydrate side of it. So when we get that and it comes in these beautiful packages, we have a system that takes 11 hours in our factory to make it. So you put it into the water in the exact ratio, and then it goes through this machine for 11 hours that drives the molecules so deep into the water. Plus we use grander water. So when we have this water system, we make all of our own water in our factory because the water has to be ultra, ultra pure. You can't have anything in the water at all but the magnesium chloride hexahydrate. So it's like 0.00 parts per million, whatever. There's nothing in there. So it goes through all this process. The last process it goes through before we put it into the main tank to make the product is grander. So if people don't know about grander water.
Now, what is grander?
Grander water is friggin' awesome. So Grander's been around.
You might have told me about it before, but I've definitely forgotten if you did.
I don't think I told you about this. This is kind of like it was a trade secret. I'm giving you trade secrets here. Okay. All right. So, but Grander is not a trade secret. It's just that's a trade secret. We use it because it does so much optimization. Grander was a guy named Johann Grander out of Austria. He started this 40 years ago was when he discovered it. What he discovered, there's a certain water that comes out of a mountain there that is full of life energy, more than any, original water from the earth that you would find that comes out of a mountain. And when he found out this had properties that if you put any other water beside it, it would immediately transfer the energy. So for example, you put lemon juice, make fresh lemon juice, put it up beside the Grander water. And it seems esoteric, but it's not because it's all measurable. Immediately, like within 20 seconds, the lemon water tastes beautiful, or the lemon juice tastes beautiful, doesn't have that bite. You can put it beside wine, it does the same thing. So what he did is he took the concentrated form of that water and made like a battery. It's a medical grade stainless steel box. And the whole casing of the box is full of this Grander water. There's a pipe that you tie in, goes down and through the unit and back out again. The water between this side and that side is completely converted to what would be like original water that you would get from the earth in the first time at this super energized level. Now, how does that show up? It shows up in industry. Like he makes these huge ones that stand like 4 feet tall and 2 feet across for people who have major ponds that they're using for industry or large tanks of water. Normally, they would have to use many chemicals throughout the year. They drop their chemical use down to 10% of what they would. They don't get the algae anymore. There's all these things that showed up in industry. So this is well known. It's a very significant company. They ship all over the world. But they're not known if you're not deep into the water health space because they're living at the very top. So through word of mouth and people finding, hey, what's Grander? I heard about Grander 15 years ago. But the problem then is I wasn't ready. And I heard about all these other things like Kangen water machines and like, the alkaline water and all these other different types of water that are out there. Everybody's making all these claims about water. And so I bought all these machines. I never bought a Grander. I don't know why. I don't know why.
I'm going to look into this.
So my buddy Bob Connolly, who I'm introducing you to,
Yeah.
he did a whole bunch of deep dive research, and he was like my best buddy because I told him about pulse electromagnetic frequency devices in 2008.
PEMF.
PEMF, yeah. And so what he did, he said, "Oh, what is this? I thought EMFs were bad for you." I go, "No, not this one. Check it out." So it kind of freaked him out because he got a prostate. He could feel his prostate buzzing. This is the only thing he sensed. He laid on this PEMF mat. His prostate started buzzing. It was the lowest setting for 8 minutes. When he got up, his prostate issues were done from that point forward. And that's the only thing he had experience on. It kind of freaked him out. He's like, "Is this even real?" I go, "I have no idea why that did that. That did not do that for anybody else I know. Maybe it would do that for another guy. I don't know." But I think because it was my first time seeing that too. I was only into it for about a year at that time. Anyway, that stimulated him to go talk to a woman named Magda Havas. People should look Magda Havas up. Magda and Havas. She is a professor in Trent University in Peterborough, Ontario, and was tenured to teach specifically on the harmful effects of radio frequencies, low EMFs, high EMFs, the grid, and the biological effects on the body at a university level. So she found out all this stuff, how harmful this stuff is. So she wasn't going to have anything to do with this PEMF thing. It's like, no way. There's no way that you could have real beneficial frequencies that would help, right? And so, yeah, there she is. Magda's awesome. She's a long-term friend. Anyway, so Bob got introduced to her. And she goes, "Okay, well, let's find out. I'll tell you what, there might be something to this. Your prostate got healed. Okay. I'm very doubtful, but what I'll do," and Magda has a lot of funds available to her. And so at the time, and it's not like she's not super wealthy or anything, but she's got funding. She said to Bob, "If you're willing to travel the world and do research and do a film where you're going to go and you're going to meet all these people in all these different health categories, I will pay for your flights, all your expenses, whatever you have, as long as you do the work, and I will fund you." So she did. And Bob then commenced to go all over the world. He went to Europe and Liechtenstein and Italy and Germany and everywhere. And he was filming. What he would do, he would go to the company, whatever company it was that he found, and he would say to the owner, "So I'm here to interview you. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm not here to buy anything. I'm just here to find out the truth about your company. What is your story? Why are you making these pulse electromagnetic frequency devices?" And then it branched into light devices and ozone device and on, right? It really mushroomed out and blossomed out over the years, but it started out with the PEMF. So after about 4 years of travel and all these machines, they kept giving him these machines. They would give him a piece of equipment. Then they would find out about Magda, give her one too, because they're trying to say, "Hey, give ours a try." And it was this iteration of going from good to great to greatest to the absolute top. Well, the top ended up being a company called Sequex, and that's how I pronounce it. They call it Sequex. It's Sequex. It's out of Trento, Italy. And the reason that they're the top one is because this guy found out about a guy named Abraham Leboff, who's like in his 90s. If he's still alive, he's like in his late 90s. But what Abraham Leboff's research was he discovered that there's a certain specific frequency pattern at different modulations where the cell suddenly opens up. They were looking at it under microscopes. The human cell opens up to receive selenium at that particular frequency, or magnesium at that other frequency, or calcium at that other, and so on, zinc and so on, right? Mm-hmm. He did this whole entire periodic element table of all these frequencies. So this guy named Valerio, he's the owner, instead of being like all the rest of the people who made millions of dollars off their PEMF devices that were the rage in Europe and then became the rage in North America, he took all his research money, or all his income, and flipped it back into research. And he said, "Who's this Leboff guy? Let's do it. I'll research the whole thing." So he embedded all the Abraham Leboff frequencies into every single device. And he had all these little programs. And he created a biofeedback device where you put these electrodes on your body, and then there's 16 million, feedback every minute back to the biofeedback device from putting PEMFs into your system to see how you react. And then your body puts back a communication to the machine. And then he would create these cards with the exact frequency for you personally. And so when I found out about all this, I bought everything, right? It's like 35,000 for this and 15,000 for that and 11,000 for this. And I flew to Italy and I met him and I was at his thing and I saw the whole deal. And I thought, I want to come back and get involved in this. But the problem was my bandwidth was so zapped already with activation. I realized I'm not going to do it. So I just ended up using the machines. The diagnostic machine, it's still local, but I sold it to somebody who can actually use it in a clinic. And so but anyway, once you get your card, it will last for 2 weeks and then you upgrade it. But after a period of time, your body is resynchronized. And the other thing that these PEMFs do, which I thought was so cool, and because I use them every day, I have a little one that I carry around now. And when you have it on, what it's doing is purging all the harmful EMF and RF radio frequencies coming from cell towers, Wi-Fi's, mobile phones, whatever. They are interrupting your state of well-being or equilibrium with your own electrical system, so that all your communication system gets messed up.
Yeah.
So what they discovered, this is really cool. They discovered in Italy that people were getting multiple sclerosis, which was the endothelium layer of the nervous system was starting to get breaches and getting cross communication and cross wiring, right?
Yeah.
Within the communication system of the body. And what they did, it was so profound. The Italian government quietly said, if anybody's interested, you go see Valerio. He has a clinic that specializes in MS. We will pay for your treatments, but you have to be proven to be an Italian citizen. And they had to be at a certain level of MS at that point. Like most of them were in wheelchairs, because if you're still walking around, they weren't funding that.
Yeah.
But people in a wheelchair would go and they would lay on the PEM. They still do this to this moment in this like a hospital environment. And they lay on this PEMF and they have to take these minerals. There's different minerals, like the minerals in Oceans Live work for this kind of thing. You take the minerals while you're on the mat. So it's going into your system, getting digested, becoming available. And while you're on the mat, all your cells are opening up, and it was fixing all the myelin sheath miscommunication by putting the crystal minerals back into the cells where they have to be, so that now it was not cross-wiring anymore. Within 7 months, they would get a person out of the wheelchair walking around normally, like a very advanced MS. And it was just all based on the Abraham Leibov frequencies embedded in his stuff. And his stuff is by no means the cheapest in the market. It is pretty much the most expensive ones. But that's fine, because it's not about what I often say all it costs is money, but you want to make sure you're getting the biggest bang for the buck. And these will last a lifetime. They're very, very well built, and they're super robust. So I still have 3 regular units that I use to treat myself. And then the medical unit has to be used for people all day. So that's a very private, small company over in Italy. He had zero interest in coming to Canada. When Bob talked to him and met him, and he came back, he told me when he met Valerio, he says, I think I met the top guy. He said, all these other pieces of equipment are actually good. They're really good. But this one, this is a different dimension. Totally different. Because then you can dial in for all different types of things you personally, because everybody's got a different DNA, a different background, a different experience. So when Bob said, oh man, this would be great to have in Canada, he goes, I will not go to Canada or the USA. And I'll tell you why.
Justin Trudeau, Obama.
No, this is the main reason. Health Canada
Mm-hmm.
and FDA.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I have friends who have other different.
Same thing. New World Order.
They're the same thing. But what was happening is they would produce, friends of his in the health space that did other things. They would produce something. And he said, I have watched people systematically, just from going to North America, get crushed by the FDA. The FDA will literally come into Europe and crush that company. So why would I want to do that? He said, I have all these people in Italy alone, let alone the surrounding countries, who have consumed my bandwidth. My company does very, very well. I'm reinvesting all the money all the time into further research. I don't drive around in Lamborghinis and Ferraris on the Autobahn. He's very low key, and he just does his work because that's his passion. And so it took 3 years When Bob came back, 2 women went to his documentary and saw this thing on there, and they go, "We got to get this stuff over in Canada. I don't care what it takes." They kept flying over there to see him, and he liked them. Right, 2 women, they're 2 sisters, and they just kept working them. And so he goes, "Okay." And they said, "No, Health Canada's changed. Health Canada is opening up to different things. They're allowing PEMF to be used for depression. They're allowing PEMF to be used for bone knitting," which was true. And there was a development in that regard, and Health Canada was opening up. So they took them 2 more years of having to connect with Health Canada and him. Health Canada flew to Europe. He had to fly to Canada, and they had to do a whole due diligence in order to get all the licensing, because these are medical devices. And so finally, they showed up in Canada. And I bought mine directly from Italy because I could import it personally, and nobody's going to know, right? You bring it in like a massage mat. It's like, that's an expensive massage mat. But it didn't matter. So I was able to get one immediately. And that was way back in the day. We're talking, well, not that far back in the day. It's like January 2017.
Oh, right.
So 5 years ago. And that was, towards the advanced, that was the most advanced stuff. Anyway, Bob is so cool. He's got this documentary coming out, The Healing Fields, which involves all the fields of energy, whether it's light, infrared, near infrared, far infrared, LED technology, PEMF, sound frequencies. There's so much stuff that's proven to be valid.
Yeah.
That you can combine many things now. So you can even get equipment, you combine the whole thing. You're doing 4 different modalities at once, which is what I do.
Well, the far infrared sauna that I've been using the last few months is, if I don't use it, I feel like it's amazing how I feel when I don't use it.
Right. Yeah.
Because when you do use it, it's like being charged up.
Well, you got that near infrared thing I sent you, right?
Yeah, I've got that too. Yeah.
So we'll have to have a talk about that at some time.
Well, I've never told anybody on the show about it, because if I did show them it, they'd all say, "Where can I get one?" And we can't get them. So,
no, right. But we will be able to get them. I'm working on that right now with the gentleman who owns the company. And the one you got is the absolutely most powerful one.
Yeah.
And that one sells for $1,500. So it's but we'll.
I think it's here.
You can turn the bright red on, but the lower setting is actually more powerful. So you can turn it on. Is it plugged in?
Just gonna plug it in.
So put it on the high setting first.
It's never far away from me.
Yes. That's another sleep tool, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I once fell asleep. I once fell asleep with it on my face. It was on for 8 hours.
oh wow. Yeah, you got to be a little bit careful with that. Yeah, okay. So, but that's it doesn't even show on the camera how bright it is. The low setting is like 860, and the other one is 670, I believe. But anyway, what that does is the lower light one, the near infrared, goes 3.5 to 4 inches into the body.
That's that one.
Yeah, that's that one. And the brighter one goes just into the skin. So that's the skin therapy, is the brighter one.
Okay, so this one's for deep cleansing.
That's like mitochondrial stimulation. The whole thing with that is all about stimulating the mitochondria, because they feed on light. There's all the biophoton energy in your body, so a treatment. I'm working on getting a unit right now. It's it's about $200,000 landed in Canada, $200,000 in place, and it's like a tanning bed, and you lay in a red
light tanning bed.
That's right. Yeah, but it's near infrared. It has near infrared and LED red light therapy, but only 12 minutes to get the whole dose. Once you've got the dose, you're done for the day. So that's the one I'm really looking forward to.
Anybody in the comments, don't be moaning at the fact that it's $200,000. These are being installed as places you can go and get treatments in, right?
For very low cost.
Yeah.
That's the idea, is to find, even if people are in an area where there isn't one, what you can do is you can either approach a clinic and show them the business model of what it would be. They can get it, and then you just go use it.
Yeah. Well, I've tried to contact the one in Ireland, and I can't get. They don't even return my calls.
Oh, really? They must be busy. That's too bad.
I don't know. I think COVID put them out of business. But
really,
I haven't tried that hard. I'm going to try a little bit harder. I just made a few phone calls, and it might be the time of day. People here go on lunch for an hour. They don't answer the phone. It's not like England. Well, our time's up, Ian. That's I like that. I wanted to talk about oils, and then we ended up talking about all sorts of stuff, which is great. And it's always a pleasure to hear your vast knowledge spill out onto the interweb. Thank you.
We're just sharing with each other. We all have more knowledge than we realize. It's just a matter of getting it set in order and having it defined and simplified, and then that's the greatness of the whole thing.
Yeah, well, it's much appreciated, and let's speak to that Bob guy soon.
Yeah, we will. And thanks, Mark, for putting this all together for everyone, and really appreciate everybody in the audience as well. Everybody, you guys bring your enthusiasm. It gets us motivated more to serve you better.
No, it's amazing, and I know lots of the things I've talked about on this channel have helped lots of people, and I'm very proud of that, and it's helped me, and that's where it starts. I'm experiencing it. So thanks a lot, Ian. I'll see you soon.
Yep, we'll talk soon.
Take care.